All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the February home-based meetup for Schoolnet. I've dropped the bit.lys for the slides and the sign-in into the chat. If you wouldn't mind signing in for us, please. And as always, welcome to WebEx. I do want to highlight that captions are now available in WebEx. At the bottom left corner, you should see a little robot with a closed caption button, and that will allow you to turn on the captions. And I'll mention our home-based manager, Rob Dietrich, this morning had another meeting, so you've got me. So as always, the purpose of our home-based meetups: foster positive field-based communications with stakeholders and relationships, communicate product-specific information, elicit feedback from the field to inform state-level decisions, provide collaborative time and problem solving, and provide coordination between different DPI groups. Our agenda today: welcome, home-based updates, and then we will dive in to our Schoolnet session. And upcoming for the rest of this week, it looks like we need to update that title, but these are the upcoming home-based meetups for the rest of this week. Tomorrow we've got Power School and Learning.com, and then Thursday Canvas, and Friday Go Open and See. And we also have coming up in April our last home-based meetup for the 2020-2021 school year, and those dates are listed here in that last column. And of course, still out there, our Lighting Our Way Forward document for COVID-19 response, our remote learning resources and information page, and of course, the DTL page on the main DPI website, all resources that are out there for you. We're also excited to pump up Digital Learning Day coming up on February 25th. So please make sure you share with all of us what you're doing with digital learning. And we are also doing an OER virtual conference that day in partnership with Go Open Virginia. So we hope that you guys can make it there. Pam, anything to add on that?
No, just that we're really excited to see and partner with educators from across Virginia too, because they also have an OER microsite similar to ours. And it's going to be an unconference style event, and we will have CEUs available, and it's free. So please feel free to pass along those links to any of your educators. We're going to have different grade bands that folks can either mix with, or they can choose to be with their similar peers that teach similar subjects and grade levels.
Awesome. Thank you, Pam. And of course, as always, our home-based website is out there with resources for pretty much anything you could need in home base. And we are also on social media. If you have not already liked us on Facebook or followed us on Instagram and Twitter, please do. Dr. Dietrich would love to see us get to 500 likes. And that would be very cool. Every Wednesday, we have a Did You Know feature for each product. And then more generally, we'll post home-based topics and links to resources as they become available and that kind of thing. So that is a great way to keep up to date with everything home base. And I'm realizing I also neglected to mention, you may have noticed our revamped home base logo on the opening slide and in the bottom right corner. So shout out to Yolanda Wilson for working to get that updated. And you should see that logo get updated in other places coming soon. And a reminder, as always, we do have our PSU home-based contacts on our website. So please, if you have a moment, take a look at that and be sure it's up to date and let us know if it is not. And of course, ServiceNow is out there. Don't forget there is a new link, and the old link just recently stopped working the other week. So I know I got a couple emails about that. So just good thing to keep in mind. And without further ado, the link to the Schoolnet slide deck will be here, and I can drop that into the chat. Pam or anyone else on the DPI side, is there anything in the opening that I missed we need to mention?
No, I think you did a great job, John.
Yep, this is Cammy. Yeah, just Pam has put the links in for the opening slides and for you guys to sign in for today.
Thank you, Pam and Cammy. Yes, please sign in if you haven't already. And I'll take just a moment to transition here. All right, there we go. And Pam put the link for this presentation in the chat, and there's also a bit.ly for it there on screen if you'd like as well. And Pam dropped the bit.ly too. So there you go. Welcome to WebEx again. And don't forget there are captions, which is pretty cool. We're pretty excited about that. I am anyway. I know I've been talking all this time, but if we haven't met, I'm John Mars, Schoolnet Product Manager and Home-Based Trainer for the Digital Teaching and Learning Division here at NCDPI. And joining us this morning, too, I also have Catherine Simone and Lisa Jablow, both from Pearson, and on our awesome North Carolina Schoolnet team. I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves, but feel free.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you or not see you virtually this morning. I hope everyone's doing well. Look forward to speaking with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is Lisa Javlo. Nice to see some of your faces this morning. I'm going to keep my camera off because my bandwidth is really lagging today, but good to be here with everyone, and I hope you all are doing well.
Thank you, guys. So our objectives for today is some quick home base updates, some usage updates, and a little bit about Transcend. Then we have a little bit of a networking type of thing we're going to try out. We don't know how it's going to work, but we're going to try it anyway and see what happens. And then just some quick sort of almost review training items, but we felt like they were probably worth reviewing now that we're past the holidays, now that we're kind of getting into the home stretch of the year. So we're going to look again at comparing assessment results, and then also take some time to look at co-teachers and Schoolnet a little bit closely. The co-teacher thing particularly had some tweaks with our most recent update. So, and then we will wrap up with any Q&A. So for home base updates, we did back in January have the upgrade to 22.1, Pearson's winter release for this year. And then right afterward, pretty quickly following, we had 22.1.1 and 0.1.2 hotfixes that were deployed for a few performance issues and other things like that in the back end that were just kind of causing some squirreliness. We also, in December, thought it was worth reminding you, since, again, holidays when this happened, but we did have almost 8,000 new items get imported in from our accountability teams, and those went into the DPI released and DPI benchmark banks. So those are out there for you now. And there are, I forget the dates that you'd want to search to find those new items, but I did put a blurb about it in the splash page. So that is there. And then we also in January had our first self-paced Schoolnet course launch in Nisus. The first one was on keeping it simple in Schoolnet. I am almost done with another one for February, which covers collaboration in Schoolnet. And I'm kind of trying to tailor it to a bunch of different audiences, just to kind of show how you can work together and collaborate in Schoolnet, even as a teacher, even as a district administrator, even as maybe a school library and media coordinator, something like that. So that is all coming up soon. And then usage updates. We just crossed the 6 million mark for assessment submissions this school year, which is pretty good. We're pretty well on track with that. And out of those, just over 50,000 of those were state recommended test submissions. And so breaking that down a little bit, we've got almost 13,000 of the math sets. Those were the NCGPI math sets that got pushed out. Almost 3,000 submissions of the released math and science exams. I think those were released form EOGs. And then almost 6,500 Certica Testlet math submissions. We also, a little bit later to the game, were some released NCFEs that we got out there. And we have seen this number shoot up pretty significantly since we last spoke. But I pulled it this morning and it was just over 23,000. And then I broke out the Certica Testlet. So the ELA beginning of year, almost 2,000. The Certica Testlet ELA middle of year, we jump up to almost 3,000. So interesting to see the usage kind of ramp up there for the middle of year compared to beginning of year tests. And that rolls us into one more usage metric that I haven't really mentioned, and that is the Transcend submissions. And especially since we were just talking about state prepared assessments, there are also Transcend assessments as an option. So I'll turn it over to Catherine to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, John. So this year, we were very happy to collaborate with Cumberland County School District on the Transcend pilot. And so far, we have administered 2 assessment. There have been 2 periods of assessments that have already been administered, and there's one more for the year. Kim's going to share a little bit after I finish with a few slides explaining it. But we just wanted to let you know that there will be, we know this was a difficult year with, hybrid learning and being home and COVID, et cetera. So we had some districts that thought that it would be a little bit too much with everything else going on, but we will still have openings for the pilot next year. So if anything you see here today or anything you hear from myself or Kim Nash interests you, you can just reach out and, we can certainly provide you with additional information. Next slide, John. Thank you. So a little bit about Transcend. It's an interim assessment system. It is adaptive in nature. And what makes it different from other adaptive tests is that you, as the district, choose the actual standards that you have taught prior to the assessment to be included on the adaptive test. The item banks are calibrated, and as I mentioned, it's adaptive in nature. So based on the students' responses on initial questions and throughout the test, that chooses their subsequent items to be tested on. The Transcend has reports, although very different in nature from Schoolnet. The reports do show at the district, school, teacher, and student level. Next one, John. So just a little bit about the item bank. There are a large range of item types, including technology enhanced items. The items have been reviewed by content specialists, and the reading items are passage-based. The way the assessments are designed is that the items are intended to be efficient. So rather than having an exceptionally large number of items for students to respond to, the items are closely aligned to the standards to provide more efficiency and therefore not necessarily have as large a number of items in each assessment. Next one, John. So this is just a screenshot of what Transcend calls the intelligent blueprint. So this is showing the 3 administrations of a 3rd grade math assessment. And you see on the first screenshot on the far left, the dark purple circles. Those would be the circles that were chosen, or the standards, sorry, standards that were chosen by the district that had been taught prior to the first assessment. So you notice in this example, not every domain has standards selected, but when we get to the second assessment, we see that the district is choosing the darker purple are the newer standards that have been added, and the light lilac purple are the standards that continue on within the assessment from the first administration. So it's a cumulative effect. And you see by the time we get to the last assessment, we are now assessing all the standards for the year for this particular course and subject. And in that way, the district's able to choose what items the students encounter on the assessment, and also to make sure that it is closely aligned with your curriculum and instruction. Next one, John. So as I mentioned, Transcend sits within the Schoolnet platform. So it has dynamic text-to-speech. Sorry for not typing that out. I just realized I put the acronym instead of writing it out for you. I apologize. So that is text-to-speech. And again, the assessments are created within Schoolnet. Basically, there's not a creation process that you're accustomed to in Schoolnet. It's just choosing the standards within the ITB, the Intelligent Test Blueprint, and then the items are pulled to a student's assessment. The Transcend assessments are also scheduled within Schoolnet, and the student experience is it's similar. It's in TestNav, so the students are seeing the same platform with the advanced arrow buttons, pause, submit that they see on any other Schoolnet test. There may be some item types that they have not experienced, but we can certainly provide examples of those prior to students testing so that they can see how to navigate those items that they may not have experience with. And also the Transcend reports sit within the Schoolnet reporting dashboard. So navigating to the reports is similar in nature to what districts, schools, and teachers are already accustomed to when looking at these reports. I think we have one more slide. So the reports, similar to the Schoolnet reports, they show district level data, school level, classes and sections for teachers, and also individual student level data. Basically, you're looking, this is just a formative type of assessment that we are trying to demonstrate how students are staying on track during the year and responding to instruction and areas in which we need further improvement. So I'm going to stop there for a minute and see if anyone has any questions, and then see if Kim wants to share a little bit of feedback of Cumberland's experience this year. Any questions? At this point, no, Lisa. I see Lisa Thompson has typed, is this an additional cost? At this point, no, this is a pilot. Any other questions? All right, Kim, are you out there?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. I hope you are. So our experience with Transcend, obviously, none of us are in the best situation right now. And I know some of our districts have gone back. Cumberland has not. Our students are still fully remote. So that posed some challenges in terms of just test administration, those types of things. So I will say that the majority of our challenges came because of the remote life of our students right now, we had some technology issues that we couldn't control because students are in their own homes. So, you know, we could not control bandwidth or things like that. And those were really the issues that we ran into with Transcend. A lot of our teachers wanted to administer the test synchronously and watch their students while their students were logged into WebEx, and you know, between the WebEx and the Transcend, you know, causing some bandwidth issues. That's kind of where the majority of our things stemmed. Advantages to this, obviously, there's no time. You don't have to put any time into creating the test. So the test is created for you. The only thing our district curriculum specialist did was to complete the blueprint that Catherine shared and just say, these are the standards that we'll be teaching. And the test is just created for you and you get sent the online passcodes. So, you know, that is definitely an advantage because you don't have that information or that time spent in it. Disadvantage, the items are closed. So your teachers never see the test items. So that has been a big adjustment for our teachers, especially in looking at how to use the data that is available. They're having to use it a little differently. The data for this year did not drill down to the standard level. And talking with Catherine and the folks from Transcend, I think that's something that they're putting in the works. But right now, it did not drill all the way down to the standard level. It stopped at the domain level. And so that was also a challenge for our teachers. They wanted to drill down all the way to the standard to know how that works. The reporting is in the Schoolnet platform, as Catherine said, but it is very different. There is no item analysis, for example, because of the adaptive nature of the test. Not everybody has the same item number 5. So you can't have what we're used to seeing as a traditional item analysis. How many of my kids missed number 5? Was number 5, you know, easy, medium, hard? You know, what's the difficulty level? Where is it at? We didn't have that type of thing because not everybody got that same question. So it's been a little bit different for our teachers, administrators, just to kind of look at that data and you know, come up with ways to make that data relevant in their minds in the classroom. And I think part of that too is also just some teacher frustration in the world that we're living in right now. They're trying to do everything remotely. So, you know, they're already kind of stressed a little bit. And so changing things probably, again, wasn't the best year. But when we decided to go with this, we were not anticipating still being home in February. So anyway, those are just some of the things. The data does separate your students and classify them in 5 levels. Basically, levels 4 and 5 are students who are likely to meet state level expectations. 3 are kind of like your borderline students. Like there's a possibility that they're going to make it based on this data, but it's not, you know, not real clear if they will or won't. And then the 1s and 2s are your lower level students. So, you know, definitely some promising things with Transcend, just different. And so, you know, it's taken our teachers and administrators and curriculum specialists some time to just kind of digest the differences and look at things from that lens. So any questions for me or regarding our experience with it? Anything I can help answer? Awesome.
Thank you,
And
Lisa.
the cost was definitely a factor for us as well because it was free. So, you know, we're all in that together.
Thanks, Kim. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Anyone have any additional questions before we move on? Okay, if you're not reading the chat, I just wanted to call this out. James asked, do all districts now have access to Transcend? John responded, currently in the pilot is just Cumberland, but there will be slots, a few slots open for next year. So if anyone is interested. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine and Kim. I thought Transcend looked really cool, so hopefully you guys do too. So next up, we've got we're gonna try to add some more intentional networking into this. So instead of a Padlet or something, we thought we would try breakout rooms. So we're going to attempt some breakout rooms. We've got these two sort of guiding questions for each room. As of this morning, WebEx Meetings says that participants should be able to self-select the breakout rooms. We didn't think that was an option when we were planning this, but I see the option now this morning, so that must have happened at some point recently. So room number 1, Catherine will be in that room to kind of help guide the conversation, facilitate, and Lisa will be in the second room. And you guys can certainly choose whichever room you would like. So the first question is kind of, where does Schoolnet fit into your PSU strategy? Have you utilized the state recommended assessments? Or maybe if you want to talk out Transcend a little more even. And then question 2, what next? Where could Schoolnet go next? What features in Schoolnet are underutilized or maybe non-existent today that you'd like to see tomorrow? So I thought we'd take, maybe 15 minutes or so to jump into the breakout rooms and kind of discuss these things. And then we'll have someone from each group kind of summarize when we come back. I also want to mention, while this main meeting is recorded, the breakouts are not recorded. So feel free to tell us what you really think. If you missed the intro to what this is on screen right now, this is the more detailed look at those new items that were added back in December. And you can see the test dates there at the bottom, hopefully underneath the captions.
Yes, it's December 12th through the 16th are the 2020 are the search dates. One of the questions that we had in our breakout session regarded the ELA grade 3 because there's a change to shorter passages. So John and I are going to look into seeing when and if we will have items that are aligned to the new shorter passages for third grade ELA. Okay. I'll stop sharing when you think it's appropriate, John.
Yeah, do we have any questions or anything out there on these new items or anything else that you'd like us to take back to the other DPI teams on those? Feel free to unmute or chat in. So next up is our sort of PD section. And we, like I said earlier, we thought it would be a good idea at this point in the year just to review comparing assessment results, because that's a newer thing. And talk about co-teachers a little bit, because that's also a newer thing. And I did just see Rob Dietrich join us. I don't know if you want to say a quick hello, Rob. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It is good to be here. Sorry I am late and I don't want to interrupt. So John, please continue. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Dietrich. Great timing. We were just transitioning. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Catherine to run through the assessment comparison report.
Okay, great. So one of the things, coincidentally, we just were discussing in our breakout room was one of the counties that shared was they were talking about their push to focus on using data after the assessments are administered. So John had the foresight to include this in for this meetup. And we're just going to do a quick recap of how to use and what to use the assessment comparison report for. So I've taken a few screenshots you go to the reporting dashboard, and this is for any level of permissions. It could be district permissions, it could be principals or teachers. Once you're in the reporting dashboard, you're going to see checkbox availability next to the assessments. And, you know, I'm a math person, so I took a couple of math assessments here on fractions. And at the bottom, once you've selected your assessments, you have the option to compare them. And once you click the compare button on the next screen that pops up, you see you have the ability to choose. Can you advance the slide, John? Sorry. You have the ability to choose, again, with checkboxes. Do you want to see the average score, the raw score, the student's proficient, or the score groups for these 3 assessments that you've chosen? Once you decide on that, you generate your report. And in the next screen, you get 2 views. You get a graph view. I've taken the liberty of selecting the score groups here, and it's still sitting at the performance level, not the standards. So here I've drilled down to an individual teacher section in the training site, and I get to see the individual students. I get to see their overall score across 3 assessments, and look at this 14089 showing improvement as we go across there. I know these are fake tests, but you know, this is the way teachers looking at it in PLCs, or they're having a data analysis meeting. You know, you're seeing, are my students growing on these standards, moving across? We can look at the raw score if that's more appropriate, or the proficiency. And at a glance, you can see up here, there's more red. I mean, I'm a visual person, so I'm like, okay, there's a lot of red and orange and yellow here. And by the time I get to the last one, the last test, we have a lot more blue and green. So we're definitely seeing growth, and these tests are lined up in order of administration. On the next slide, I've switched to the standards comparison, and that's now I'm looking, I actually chose different tests, so you'd get a variety of standards in here. But if we look at the measurement standards, we can see the graphic visual of growth across the measurement and data standards for 3rd grade, and how students are improving. And you still get that graph view on the next slide. I chose reading for this to give some of my reading folks some time here on these slides. But you can see we're at the domain level with the language. We go to the next tier of the standard and down to the skill level. You can look at the average score, raw score, and you're comparing growth across any number of tests that you choose for that. So being the time of year it is, you know, mostly people have finished at least one main assessment as a baseline in the beginning of the year, maybe a mid-year, or some progress monitoring in between. And you can line these up to show growth of your students, or where some gaps are, and if they need further assistance. I'm going to pause for a moment. Does anyone have any questions regarding the comparison report? Co-teacher permissions was a new feature in the last upgrade in December. So we wanted to revisit this to make sure everyone had a clear understanding of how to enable that within the system. On the next slide, you see all the permissions that the teacher that are available to the teacher. And I'll go through screenshots of each, but essentially, once the co-teacher has requested access to sections of the primary teacher and the sections have been approved, then they will have all the same capabilities as the primary teacher of the class. And on the next slide, we have provided the directions. There are two links here. One link is for teacher instructions, and the other is for leadership approval of sections. So the first thing, the co-teacher, not the primary teacher, needs to go into their My Account, and you'll see all the screenshots in these directions. And from My Account, they need to choose the sections that they would like to have access to. Then someone within leadership needs to approve those section requests. Also, the directions are here for leadership if you need those. And once those two tasks occur, then the co-teacher is able to schedule tests. So scenarios that we've had in the past, there is a general ed teacher and a special ed teacher, and the special ed teacher has modified an assessment and they would like to schedule it to their students within the main class. So now that ability would be there for this test. They can score the test themselves. They can view the proctor dashboard. They can run all of the reports for any assessments that were given to that section that they have access to. Basically having all the same capabilities as the primary teacher. So I've included a couple screenshots on the next page, next slide. And here you see on the left, I've set up the green is the primary teacher and the red outline in the choose a section is the co-teacher, but they're both appearing in the same section. So now you have that teacher having the ability to choose which sections they would like to view. When you go to the right on the classroom assessment monitor, they now have access to all the results of that third grade test that were given to the teacher. On the next slide, you see this co-teacher now has the ability to score the test, to view the proctor dashboard. They can resume it if a child needs their test resumed, or they can force submit if for some reason the child did not submit the test. And of course, they can score it. I see we have a question. If only Canvas had co-teacher function like this, so courses wouldn't disappear. Yes. Yes, James. I don't know as much about Canvas, but I know that previously we had a lot of that problem in Schoolnet with sections not being available due to maternity leaves, etc. if that slot was not filled. So now we can be sure to make sure that the co-teacher requests access before the primary teacher disappears from that section in Schoolnet. From Lisa, it's actually Pam is saying it's actually more of a PowerSchool limitation, and Lisa's saying our data managers have been taught not to move the first teacher. Okay, so that is one workaround, is not to move the first teacher, but now you also have the option of having the second teacher request access so that they can continue to see the section. Any other questions about the co-teacher feature? Make sure, just a reminder that the co-teacher needs to log in themselves and request the sections. It has to be done from that login account. It can't be done at the leadership level or any other place. So that seems to be the one thing that with people or districts that I've worked with so far is getting the co-teacher acclimated to how to request those sections. But other than that, I think that would be the only difficulty I've seen so far. Any other feedback on that? Thanks, James. Okay. John, back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. And yeah, I'll just throw out there, there's definitely, Power School co-teachers versus requesting co-teacher access, and Schoolnet is kind of a workaround for having to put it in Power School, right? But great point that changing those teachers in Power School can have different effects downstream, Canvas versus Schoolnet versus anything else you might have connected, right? So just something to look out for. So that brings us to our final section, the final bit of networking and Q&A. So I wanted to provide some time here to kind of summarize anything that might have been discussed in particular in the breakout sessions. I know I sat in both of them for just a little bit, and heard some great stuff about people liking the new Canvas integration this year, and just different usage scenarios in this strange school year. But I don't know, Catherine or Lisa, if you want to summarize, or anyone else, feel free to unmute and dive in.
Well, as I said, we talked about the new Canvas integration, and that teachers working in Union County, Lisa shared that the PLCs are working towards more shared classroom assessments, and the integration with Canvas moved forward. That would be a theme with 3 of the districts that shared on our group. That moving away from Google Classroom and moving toward Canvas. I did share, John, that we compared usage from last year to this year with Canvas and Schoolnet assessments, and it's definitely more than tripled from last year. So we're definitely seeing the productive use of that Canvas and Schoolnet integration. I think I already shared with you regarding the release items from December. And we also talked about, how teachers are liking the state release, and, what we can provide more of in that respect. I did share, and I want to share with everyone at this point, because CTE was also brought up. One thing that we are looking at and trying out with the CTE folks to maybe see how we can reproduce it for next year is, I know a lot of the CTE requirements have gone to performance-based measures, and we are looking at including those in Schoolnet as with rubrics, since they're moving away from item-based assessments. So stay tuned. Hopefully we will have some samples to share with you in April. And we're kind of excited about that for the CTE folks. And that was kind of our group, John.
Definitely. Thank you, Catherine. And great point on CTE. I don't think I remembered to mention that at any point. So thank you. And Lisa, anything of kind of note from your group? I know I heard a lot of talk about assigning tests to students from a leadership account, and
Right.
kind of talking through some summer school things and thoughts on that whole process.
Right. Just some more enhanced test tracking abilities, even, to try to get down to the granular level to define an IP address that students are using. And that's more or less just for, I think, testing integrity with students trying to take tests for others, as mentioned by Davidson County. We have made enhancement requests in the past, and it's definitely something that we can look into. And right, the other issue was just the test window flexibility as it relates to Power School and semester classes. Once semester ends, it's a little bit different than a year-long class, and students lose their ability to take a test. The workaround is the fact that students can still test with, as long as the allow only assigned student box is left disabled, and the students can be given a passcode. But the problem then is just with the way that the data aligns. It's not going to align perfectly because the students aren't in the class anymore. And then the other discussion was about summer session. And I know that this summer, especially, we're probably going to have many LEAs that are going to want to provide this this opportunity for their kids to be able to do credit recovery or just to take some, refresher courses. And we've always run into the problem that students aren't actually enrolled in Power School for the summer. So it's hard to assign, assessments directly to students. But it's worth a conversation, and, perhaps we can, try and figure out a pathway.
Definitely, and I'll say, like I said in the breakout room on that last point, that definitely will take some good thought and conversation around the architecture of all of that. So definitely worth discussing, but no promises, because that is a big conversation.
Exactly, it's a tough one.
So anyone out in the crowd as well, I believe you have the ability to unmute here in the main session. Yes, you do. So if there's anything else out there that anyone would like to share or discuss, this is absolutely your time to do that.
I just
If you
wanted
did-
to piggyback off that must have been the other room y'all talking about summer. We had started building our credit by demonstrated mastery assessments in Schoolnet, and had to back up and punt and use Canvas because of the summer issue. So that would definitely make it a lot easier if there was any way we could figure that out.
Definitely. We will absolutely take that back, and there's got to be some workaround or something we can do, I would think, somewhere. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. And I see Lindsay saying as they move more to standards-based mastery, that will be more and more needed. Absolutely. So we will take that back and see where we can go with that. So we are running ahead of schedule. I'll go ahead and advance to our very last slide here. This does have the bit.ly there in the top right for the home-based meetup feedback form, and this is the one that will give you an emailed copy of a certificate for CEUs if you would need that. So I'll certainly hang out here for a little while. But if not, I hope that this was a good session for you guys today, and I will look forward to talking to you next time.
John, this is Lisa Thompson.
Hey.
Just want to ask a quick question. I kind of get I go back and forth when you're integrating a Schoolnet test into Canvas and the scores don't come over to Canvas. Is there any workarounds or things that you mean, like, where do I go with that?
I would definitely, I would tend to think that you would want to put in a ticket on the Canvas side, and I don't know if Pam wants to jump in here too. I tend to think that it might be a Canvas side issue. I think I heard someone saying that a teacher can go in and manually input that score into Canvas when it doesn't show up for a random handful. And I think I heard too. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we've never. It's like both sides are saying it's not their problem. So I mean, I didn't know if we ever got any issues, any clarification on that.
So Lisa, I will say that I've had a couple of districts I've worked with that have had a couple of squirrely things where, like, it was one or two students in one class where their grade wouldn't take. First of all, it can take up to 24 hours for those grades to see.
Oh yeah.
But if you have problems with a handful of randomness after that 24-hour period, one thing that did fix both districts that were having some squirrely issues was that they put a Power School ticket in for their SIF agent to be reset. That's SIF agent SIF, because that is what sends the information from your local Power School instance over into Canvas. And when that was reset, the squirrely little data issues or one or two here all of a sudden were fixed. And so I know that That doesn't, I don't have an exact cause for it, but I do know that having that SIF agent restarted did clear up those issues. And it wasn't just related to Schoolnet tests. A couple of them had like a random student not showing up in their courses, even though they were enrolled a few days ago, during semester change. So that's one thing that I've just been recommending to folks, is that if you're experiencing some random data issues with Canvas, to ask PowerSchool to reset your SIF agent. But if there is something that seems to keep happening after we've been having your SIF agent reset, if you can put a ticket in with Canvas and then send me the number, I can help keep track of it. I don't have access to everyone's individual instances, so I can't like go in there and see how things are, but I can help track those tickets of random things that are occurring.
Okay, that's good to know. So the SIF agent just kind of helps lots of problems, maybe? I mean,
It does. So the SIF agent is where the data comes from. So, you have a nightly sync between Canvas and PowerSchool, right? And what happens is PowerSchool puts that information on using the SIF agent, sends it to Canvas. And so the SIF agent is kind of like our little middleman, and sometimes he needs to get reset in order for the connection to work as clear as possible. I do know that there are some updates coming that Canvas is working on a better way to get data from PowerSchool. So I'm hoping that this is going to improve soon. But I will say, if you've never put in a ticket for a SIF agent reset, or it's been a few months and you're seeing some squirrely things, it's just a good idea to put the ticket in, because apparently sometimes it can get clogged, especially with semester change. If you had a lot of changes of information, students starting new semester, having that SIF agent restarted can make a good bit of difference.
So can they do that anytime during the day, or is that a certain
Yep,
time?
it's anytime during the day. It just needs to be your PowerSchool person has to put in a ticket and direct it to PowerSchool hosting, and just ask for your SIF agent to be restarted.
Okay.
And so it gets restarted at any point during the day, and then the next sync happens in the evening, right? So it gets restarted. It's not going to fix anything until your next sync that evening.
Thank you, Pam. And yeah, I'll just say all of these integrations are so reliant on all these different systems having the same set of data from PowerSchool. So if there's a squirrely weird thing happening over here, it could possibly manifest as an issue over there, right? So
who exactly do we put the ticket into to reset our SIF agents?
So the SIF agent sits over on the PowerSchool side. So if you put in a PowerSchool ticket through PowerSource, they should be able to very easily get that done for you. And like Pam said, we've seen that fix things. Sorry, what was that?
That would be ask our data manager at the district level to do that?
Yes, so that would be your district level PowerSchool coordinator. All right. Well, I'm going to drop the bit.ly for the certificate one more time so you guys can get your CEUs. And certainly, as always, if anything ever comes up, feel free to pop in a ticket or shoot me an email or both. We are absolutely here to help you and make sure that you are fully supported with Schoolnet out in your PSU. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you next time.